Gary and I are doing for everybody, showing, providing tools so you're simply aware, and so that we can get out of this automatic living.
And the tools we're delivering, I mean, we believe anyways, they're they're really just there are ways that make it less scary. Because I guarantee you, the scariest adventure you'll ever have is the adventure to your true self.
Yeah, the
Okay.
journey down. Yeah.
And so if you can have tools to make that process easier and hack it to get there faster and more authentically, then we believe that more people will take the journey, or at least explore the possibility.
You have no idea how afraid people are of themselves.
Yeah.
No idea until you're in front of them and you are seeing panic on a person's face.
So and let me go back to, because it's a really good example, and I don't even know who or if the Enlightenment Intensive is still being offered. I know there's variations of it, and I know my buddy Satyan Raja does do something. He does a revised, updated version of that process. Um, but when I did and I did it a couple times, as crazy as that sounds, the you think the torture the first time was bad enough, but then I went back and did it again, and actually a couple times after that. So it's in that experience, when you're doing it in a room full of people that are also on the same journey of finding their own true selves. And exactly what Ross is talking about is that the things that come up that you think you are, that the shells that you put to cover the true authentic self is so thick and so many layers, and it's work, right? It's work not only to just get there, but also to be able to tap back into that on a regular. And it's important to have people around you that support you and that you can know and trust, that are not there to maliciously hurt you, but there to call you on your crap and bring you into your truth, and to be okay with that. And that isn't easy to do for many people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so finding your authentic self, it's a great adventure. But I do say, do it with caution. Don't go in blindly. Do it with understanding that it's not going to be roses, daisies, and unicorns. It isn't. It can be at some points, but for most people, it's horrific along the way, because you come up with all the stuff that you've tried to convince yourself you are, and then when you start to realize some of those truths, you're like, holy crap, I've been living a lie. I've been living. And it's hard to swallow, right? And that's the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's and I say this from being in a few of these whether it's that particular workshop or other workshops where people are searching for their empowerment and stuff like that, where they realize that what they've been taught or what they've conditioned themselves to accept is so far from the truth that it's sad, it's scary, it's and while it's sad and scary, it's also uplifting to know that, oh, okay, well, there's much more than what I've been living. There's that side of it. And that's the excitement. And hopefully that's we talk about in the streams and on the 7-day program all the time about, it's not about having balance. It's about finding that imbalance, that slightly shifted towards evolution. And that slight shift towards evolution is to know that that potential exists, even though all that crap is going on, right? But we're so slightly tipped into the side of evolution that it drives us to look for that. It drives us to search for those things. It drives us to work through, over, under, and around any of the obstacles that show up. Right?
Yeah. So I looked it up. It looks like he still has Illumination Intensive. That's what he's calling it now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
might be it. So very powerful. Highly recommended. We'll be actually having him on the show sometime soon. He's a phenomenal man.
Absolutely. What he's done with the
But this,
program is absolutely amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And but but what Gary's saying is where people have the difficulty is that they have these belief systems, and these belief systems have run their life. And some people discover them early, some people discover them late. Um, but so this is a belief system here, and then everything is piled on top of that. Okay, but this belief system is relatively running everything. And
It's
what
like a container. Think of it like a container for your reality. The belief system says, okay, everything that you're going to experience reality falls into this container.
right?
Because if
So
you don't have a belief system, you don't have experience of it. That's just the way it is.
right. So think that you have everything piled on top of this belief system and such. And what is going to happen is that, well, we're going to kind of shatter this belief system, possibly, or expose it at least. Okay. Well, that panic or that fear that people feel is that, but if we change this or expose it and such, all of this is the foundation. All of this is going to come crashing down, which it's not, but it feels that way. That's where Gary's saying, he goes, this, you can go through these processes and they can be terrifying and such. Inside, in here, they're terrifying. You're not physically going to, be hurt in any way, but, to have this, change augmented, whatever the case may be, you all of a sudden you feel this, you feel everything that's on top of it. Or even if you have that container, you just like, it's going to fall and spill, it's going to crack, it's going to break, whatever the case may be. But it's all inside. And that's why doing this in a very, very safe place, we're around people who are like, we're here for you, man. We're here for you. And says, we are going to, it's kind of like, if we pull this out, all those people are underneath here holding you up. Okay, while you can steady yourself. But that's where a lot of that fear, and people just like, I think subconsciously a lot of people, when you talk about this type of stuff, their subconscious is already telling them, yeah, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. This is what's going to happen. Now they start living in the future. Like, if you do that, this is what's going to happen. It's the what if. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to deal with that.
Well, it's a couple. I mean, it also happens the other way too, Ross, where it's because because I know people have done the process I'm talking about as well, the enlightenment intensive or illumination intensive.
Right.
And there's this, it's kind of bizarre. It's when you think of the concept and the idea of doing it, it's like, oh man, yeah, I'd love to do that. That would be amazing. That would be awesome. And so you're like, yeah. And then when you sign on the dotted line, you go, shit, I'm committed.
I just want to talk about doing
it. You're like, oh man, okay, now reality kicks in, right? Because that's the ultimate reality hack is tapping into yourself, right? And you go through, and then what happens is you go through all these different stages before you actually get to the event, right? Before you actually get to the doing of the thing. But in reality, it's actually a part of the event, right? Before you show up, right? So, and not to separate the two, I think for me was really critical, because I always found that when I did make that decision that I'm going to do it, that I realized that from that moment, things were going to shift for me. I got it the first time. I realized that, whoa, I'm already starting the process of reflecting on who that is and exploring, is this true? Already did that process. So going into it, I was already, for me, ahead of the game, right? Because that's just the way my brain thinks. And the experiences that I've had have kind of led me to be able to do that. But those people who came with the excitement of thinking, okay, it's going to be this Zen retreat, or we're going to, and then they get in there, and the first hour is okay. It's kind of all right. It's interesting. There's cool. There's novelty to it. And in the second hour, I guess things start to look a little different. And then third hour, and then hour 40, you got people bouncing off the walls and wanting to get out and thinking they're in a crazy house. And then at the end of it, hour 72, people come to this place because of the way the process is done, whatever time frame is. By the end of it, you get some deep realizations that you would have never otherwise got, and you can then choose to, because it's still a choice, you can still choose to take those learnings, those lessons, those insights, that wisdom from yourself as well as what you've seen around you into your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, because Ross and I, the one of the biggest things that Ross and I has brought us together is that it's not about having the experience. It's about how do you take that and integrate it into your day-to-day reality, right? How do you bring that experience that you had so that it's something that you're living all the time, instead of just an experience that you had that you can reflect back on once in a while?
Yeah. And that's that was the key to when we started working on the infinity process.
Yeah, well, that was the whole catalyst of it, right? It was like, people are just they're just coming back, and they're like drug addicts. It's a personal development drug, right? It's they want the next fix, or they want the next high, and feeling that empowerment. Well, what if you had that all the time? What if you could turn that on by choice? And that's where the whole infinity process came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there are people who are, in my opinion, literally addicted to, personal.
Been there. Hey, I've been there. I'm
yeah.
I was at the meetings. I led some of the meetings.
And you're just like, yeah, that's it. That's the magic bullet. And oh, that didn't quite work. Oh, that's the magic bullet. Those people that are going in that direction. Then you have the other ones who, they just genuinely love the people that are the like-minded people,
the community, yeah,
and such. And so there's a lot of different reasons for it, and we're not dissing anybody.
No.
However, what Gary just said is that, wouldn't it be better though if you could, because you would meet them, away from these events, and they're kind of a different person. And you're like, well, but isn't that what you learned? Well, yeah, that was then, and I remember it. I'm like, yeah, but the research when it comes to memories, it ain't so good and such, because your memories are filtered as well. And your memories have holes in them and such. And so then your mind fills in those holes. And those holes are filled in with who knows what.
So what, excuse me, would that not bring you into like you having or a perception or an expectation on someone?
Both of it, both and all.
Absolutely.
Then that. Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's why, memories are they're important, but if you really dig down into what someone's memory is, it's just a snapshot.
Yeah, I was listening to Dispenza the other day, and the thing that he was talking about was emotions being from the past, because the only way you can experience an emotion is from a past memory.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so if you find that you're living your life off of emotions, you're always living in the past.